Hi, I'm Mark from Lloyds. I work in the People and Places part of the business. It's great to welcome the Future Leaders students here today at Old Broad Street in London.
I really enjoyed my trip to the Lloyds Tower today because we got to see a lot of different colleagues who worked here, a lot of different roles that they had.
It's made me feel confident speaking to new employees.
They've had a fantastic session. We talk about skills, how, the CV part.
It gave me an insight on how to come across when it comes to interviews. As before, I didn't really know how to really present myself when it came to interviews.
We also learned how to sort of identify any key skills that we may have.
This experience has been very eye-opening for me, as I've been able to know my strengths and weaknesses.
It made me more mindful of the values which I have as an individual. So they were talking about a personal brand, and it really makes me more confident in myself.
At Future Leaders, we are passionate about working with young people from underrepresented backgrounds, closing the opportunity gap and giving them experiences that help them secure their post-18 pathways. Today at Lloyds Bank was exactly about that, where they got to meet with a range of professionals, develop their skills, their personal brand and their growth mindset to ensure that they are prepared for their next steps.
Future Leaders is a great organisation. It's great to work with them, and we look forward to further collaborations with Future Leaders and Lloyds Bank.
Ready?
Steady.
Go. Here at Lloyds Banking Group, there's no such thing as just an apprentice. I'm in a position to say whether our products are fair, ethical and designed to help Britain prosper.
That moment when you realise you're in a team managing over £150 billion in funds.
It isn't all finance all the time. I led a partnership with Macmillan to help our customers access better cancer care.
Everyone knows you can trust Lloyds. I've seen our bold sustainability commitments, and every day I see us following through.
1 minute I'm leaving uni with my sports science degree. The next I'm in a room thinking of ideas to help millions of families during the pandemic.
I work in financial crime, international sanctions. As you can imagine, it's a pretty interesting place to be right now.
1 minute you're reading about the cost of living crisis, and the next you're writing a briefing paper on it.
Off the back of my dissertation on DevOps pipelines, I went into an engineering role, and now I'm rolling it out company-wide.
We all got million subscriptions nowadays, so my team built a tool that helps 18 million customers manage them in our app.
When it's not developing with React or Redux, it's gaming with the other grads, or the odd night out.
I couldn't be prouder of my outreach work through Lloyds, helping school-age girls and non-binary people get into coding.
My next step, go for an associate director role, either in my team or something new and exciting. How's that for a rotation?
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Lloyds Careers Live here from the wonderful city of Bristol. It's behind me. My name's Ian, and I'm one of your hosts alongside my colleague Gronya in Careers Live for this evening. And welcome along to this, which is our 12th edition of Careers Live, and actually is almost our first birthday. It will be at 7 o'clock as well. So joined by myself, by my colleague Gronya, we both work for Lloyds Banking Group. And as you may know, Careers Live is the careers fair that comes to you. And every month we feature a completely new career space for you to consider. And we find out what's involved, where things are heading, and how you can get into that particular profession. So back in May, I was here in Bristol in our brand new campus site, which is all around me at the moment in the harbour side in Bristol, with colleague Damon, exploring careers in banking and customer service. And we were looking at how colleagues here at Lloyds have developed their careers from starting out on the front line, and how their understanding of customer service helped them with their career journeys. And we also explored customer dilemmas. So if you missed that episode of Careers Live, you can pop over to our YouTube channel later on this evening and you can catch it all there again.
Hi everyone, I'm Gronya. I'm also a colleague here at Lloyds Banking Group, presenting alongside Ian this evening. And tonight our live stream is all about careers and data. Now, if you're a keen follower of Lloyds Careers Live, you'll know that we looked at data before, but it's becoming one of the fastest growing career sectors out there at the moment. There's so much more to explore than we can fit into one single hour. Since we last covered this career space, the world's got very excited about artificial intelligence, or AI, and the power that AI combined with lots of data can hold to develop new services to improve all of our lives. So just to reassure you, despite 2023 being the year of ChatGPT and Google Bard, we're very real tonight. We're absolutely live here, and our script was not written by a chatbot just yet.
Yeah, it would be interesting if we tried. We maybe next time might send the script through a chatbot and see what actually comes out of it in there. But we've got so much to cover on tonight's live stream. We're going to be hearing from Ranil, who joined us in September, and joining us again this evening is going to bring us up to speed with what's new in the world of data and how, as organizations invest more heavily in this space, data really isn't just one profession, but is now becoming a range of different disciplines and different mindsets that have to work together to help organizations to grow. And we mentioned AI a little bit earlier, and so we're going to be hearing from Paul about the role of ethics in data and some of the ethical dilemmas that can arise, particularly when we're working across geographical boundaries. And of course, we're going to be hearing from graduates and apprentices in the world of data, exploring their careers so far, how they got into this career space, and how they're continuing to develop their skills. Now, above all, Careers Live is your broadcast. It is live, and we're really interested in making sure that we answer your questions. So over in Zoom chat is our colleague Jen, who's amazing and manning the chat this evening. So do be sure to keep her busy answering all your questions, and we'll see what answers we can get from all of our guests for you.
So Ian, let's find out a little bit about our audience here tonight and make sure where everyone knows where the chat function is on Zoom. So to get us started, why don't you all pop into the chat where you're joining us from tonight?
Yeah, let's have a look. Hello, somebody said hello. East London, for Gareth is in East London. So you all know that I'm in Bristol. Gronya, you've travelled over whilst those answers are coming in. You've travelled over from Belfast, just in case anybody was going.
From Northern Ireland.
Just in case when everybody's going, where is that accent from? You've travelled all the way from Belfast to the room next door to me. Hello to Herschel in Wembley. Jen is in West Yorkshire. Scott is in Farnham. Gosh, I haven't been to Farnham for a while. Hi from London, Glasgow, Tamworth, Croydon. Somebody else in Glasgow. Hey, might be like Friends Reunited of Glasgow this evening. Ah, it's fantastic. And somebody from Egypt. Okay, well, you definitely win the award for furthest away, but also we're going to be introducing you in a little while to Philip, who's up on the Isle of Bute at the moment doing some fantastic things in volunteering, which we'll tell you all about, as well as his exciting role we'll tell you in a little bit as well. Right, okay, so super. Now, if you need it, we have enabled closed caption support on Zoom and auto subtitling on the YouTube channel. So if you need that support, then do make sure that you've activated it. And we've got the first of our polls coming up now, so a good time to introduce Gareth, who's our event producer. Hello to Gareth, for this evening, who makes all of the magic work in the background. So Gareth, if we can have a first poll. We managed to do that. So we've got a question for you here. In our first poll, we're interested in what stage of education are you in right now? This just helps us to kind of understand how we pitch things and we get an idea of whereabouts you are. So we can see there, Gronya, we've got, oh, it's all jumping around a bit, haven't we? We've got a few graduates and we had a bit of a spurt going on with the GCSEs and a few in A levels. And looks like we've got quite a few undergraduates, which is good because we've got Arena here who can tell you all about some of our graduate schemes in a little bit. Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much. Gronya.
And then let's see how much you already know about careers and data. If you give us a score between 1 and 5, 5 being you know all there is about careers and data, and maybe next time we'll book you as our expert guest, or give us a 1 score if you know nothing really about careers and data.
All right, when we're not recording who said this at all. We nearly had an impromptu guest as well, Gronya, didn't we, just to prove that this is live.
We did, yes.
So what, we've got mostly 3s in there and a few 2s as well. So this is definitely the right event for you in there, a good mix of responses. So thank you so much for that. And Gareth, we can move the polling out of the way. I'll just take it off my screen as well. So time then for our first guest for this evening. So invited back onto the Lloyds Careers Live stage because last time there was so much to explore that we really couldn't fit in all of his thoughts. So Ranil, welcome back. And let's start off by reminding everybody who you are. And because everybody at Lloyds has got complicated job titles, maybe what you really do rather than like what the big job title says.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Grania. Thank you for having me back. So, hi everyone. I'm Ranil Batheju. I'm got a fairly long title. It's Group Chief Data and Analytics Officer. What that really means, though, is I am accountable at Lloyds Banking Group for really how we use data and machine learning, how we actually embed a lot of these capabilities so that we can serve customers better, that we can understand their needs, that we can protect them from fraud. We can predict, what their future needs are, and also understand their whole approach to risk, investment, and things like that. So it's really about taking data and then using maths and algorithms to turn that into insight and knowledge. That's effectively what I do, Ian.
Yeah, but just in that sentence, you've kind of like shown that kind of broad range, I guess, isn't it? About, Lloyds Banking Group's a big place, right? 60-odd thousand colleagues and has been around for hundreds of years. But just in that sentence, it's interesting just to see how, the tentacles of how important data is to all different aspects of Lloyds Banking Group's business operations.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's really important to really reinforce that in the world of data and analytics, there are many, many different types of roles, right? Some of them are technical, many are not technical, right? So we have roles where you need to be a sort of a statistician or, really understand maths and algorithms. There are other roles, and, I think Paul, who's going to come on later, is going to talk about some of those, where it's more about ethics. There are roles which are more about how you organize data. So this is called data management. Again, you don't need to be like a coder, but you do need to sort of think logically. And then there are roles in areas like visualization, where you're trying to present data in ways that people can actually make sense of and understand it. So a number of different roles, and you don't necessarily have to be technical to really start in data. And, I think I shared this last time, Ian, that in my team across the bank, got loads and loads of colleagues who started from very non-technical backgrounds and are now doing very well in the world of data and analytics.
Yeah. And it's one of the advantages, I guess, isn't it, about if you're going to pick a career path that is fast growing, there are going to be opportunities that will present themselves that you may not be able to see right now. But if you're open-minded enough, you will find your kind of groove and you will find different opportunities that are there. And I guess that's the characteristic I get from listening to your world is there are things that we do now that maybe going back 2-3 years ago, we really didn't foresee. And that is the pace of change in your world.
Most things I do today, I didn't do 3 years ago, right? So there's such a lot of change that it's not really about what you know, it's more about what you can learn. And so when we hire people into the team, we're less interested in what they already know. It's more about, can they demonstrate that they're curious and willing to learn new things? And the reason that's so important is literally everything is new. It's going through this massive amount of change. There's a real dynamism in the world of data and analytics, which is very exciting. It's an incredibly exciting place to be right now.
Yeah. So back in September, we peeked into this exciting world of data, as you said, for students thinking about making this their career choice. So we were joking a little bit whilst we were off air then that, okay, it's only September and it was only 9 months ago. But in some respects in the world of data, it might as well have been 9 years ago, because the rate of stuff that's going on, and we now hear, even in the news today, we hear Rishi Sunak going to Washington to talk about data and AI and governance. We hear about the Labour Party's ideas within this. And this is kind of like, it's incredible, the change in terms of data coming into the common currency that we have here.
Yeah, I mean, when we spoke 9 months ago in September, don't get me wrong, even at that point, data and analytics, definitely the coolest, most in-demand job in the world, right? So I think I shared with the audience back then, it's an amazing place to be. The growth of data roles, the demand, you can dine out forever, right? So that was the message back in September. Since then, a few months later, ChatGPT took the world by storm, and it is incredibly exciting. We're in this real inflection point where all of a sudden, technologies that were almost science fiction about 3 or 4 years ago are now mainstream, right? And if you've ever used ChatGPT, if you've seen the power of some of these large language models and foundational models, it is incredibly exciting, right? So that's happened all in the last 9 months, and literally on a daily basis, something new gets launched. There's some new technological advancement. So for me, it feels like I've been in this space for about, give my age away here, for about 25 years now. And just this last 9 months has been the most incredible ride, right? And that is just going to continue and continue. And so one thing I would say is there's a lot of doom mongers out there that are worried about AI taking jobs away. So my really strong belief is you won't lose your job to an AI. You will lose your job to a human that knows how to use AI. And so my message is we're at this kind of major technological revolution. Data and AI, critical skills. I really encourage you to get on board in that it's an incredibly exciting time and you'll be at the forefront of innovation.
So what are if we kind of like glance through all of those news headlines then, what is it that stands out then over the 9 months? Is it AI in particular that really is that kind of inflection point shift that we've seen in data in the last 9 months?
Yeah, so it was a step change. So basically, ChatGPT 3 and now ChatGPT 4, these were basically algorithms, large language models that were trained on massive data sets, with millions of parameters. And basically, the power of these was like a step change, right? So order of magnitude step change. And so that has just basically fueled, a lot of innovation and a lot of ideas, and a lot of, people are embedding, these capabilities into everything, right? So to the point where, I recently, got ChatGPT to write a poem for my wife, and it was better than anything I could have ever done, right? So that's just an example of, one person, a middle-aged man using it. But, it's incredibly powerful, right? So it's going to really revolutionize how we interact, in our day-to-day world. And if you are someone that actually understands, how to use these capabilities, you're going to have a fantastically successful career. And, what's really interesting is, there's a lot of doom mongers that say AI is going to take away jobs. One of the things that is true, though, is AI creates new jobs. So one of the hottest jobs in the world right now is a new role. It didn't exist, it was hardly known like 6-7 months ago. It's called a prompt engineer. So it's a specific type of skill where you've got to basically pose questions at your language model to calibrate the answers. So it's a different type of skill. It's not necessarily a mathematics or coding skill. It's more about a thinking skill. That is now one of the hottest jobs on the planet, being a prompt engineer. So it's an example of how this new technology has created a brand new role in the world of data. And it's something that, many of the people on this call, they'll, could end up becoming prompt engineers one day.
Yeah, that's I always love time that we get with you, and it's a real privilege that we get to talk, because so I was watching a program with a use case where they were trying to kind of like use AI within a kind of counseling type application, and then it kind of reminds you that, well, somebody at some stage is going to have to kind of code this thing. Somebody's going to have to figure out what we're going to do with this. Somebody has to understand the basic psychology before they can actually move their way through these things.
Absolutely. So, we're sort of feeling our way into that. But as I said before, the really exciting thing is the amount of innovation and just the I guess the positivity about what you can do with these new capabilities. I mean, it's almost like the Wild West in terms of ideas and opportunities.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So a number of our audience are still going to be in school at this moment in time. So they're going to be looking to transition into the world of work. But, possibly if they're doing GCSEs at the moment, they'll be thinking kind of like, well, it might be like 2028 by the time I come out of school. So it's really hard to predict the future, of course. But From what you can see at the moment and with the growth of AI, are there kind of like underlying aptitudes or skills that you think, look, I can't tell you exactly what that job is going to be in 2028, but these kind of aptitudes and skills are good ones for you to be able to cultivate?
So do you know what? So I would really encourage anyone to who is at school or university to try and learn more about data analytics, AI, machine learning, right? So start learning. It doesn't necessarily need to be technical. So one of the things about AI, right, is that you need your data somewhat organized for it to work, right? So when the AI makes a prediction, you want to understand what would
That
the
was this
data
Dior one I saw. It's
that
like in a
actually.
nice purpley shade, good for brown girls.
We've just got a bit of interruption. Gareth, if you can just figure out whose mic is live, who's managed to get their mic live.
All right.
And sorry for that. We'll get that turned off. Sorry,
Yes.
Renil, you were saying.
Yeah, no, I was saying that basically get exposure to these new capabilities. All of the roles aren't necessarily technical, right? So data management is critical. If you don't organize and understand your data, then AI is never going to work because you won't understand what led to that prediction. So that's a really good way to get into this space if you're not necessarily super technical. That's a really clear path. The world of ethics is another really good path to really So the role of an AI ethicist didn't even exist a few years ago, and in fact, we actually hired a head of AI ethics, and like 6 months ago, I believe Paul's going to speak later on. That was the first time a bank in the UK had actually created that role. Now they're everywhere, right? And so lots of new roles, lots of opportunities to get into this space. What I'd really encourage everyone on the call is be curious. A lot of these capabilities you can get on download on your phone, open source, try them out, test them, have a play around, use it to compose a speech or something and have a play around with it. But try and just get some exposure to this would be my very strong advice.
Yeah. And read, isn't it? Because there's so much, I think you can pick up quite a lot from actually reading articles about the evolution of things, about the underlying mechanics of it, where engineers are trying to work on AI at the moment, what they understand as being the pluses of ChatGPT-4, but then also what they're also picking up as being, what do we now need to work on because what is missing that we would want to have in ChatGPT-5. So you can learn a lot about the way that this technology is going to evolve by just participating in the big conversation.
Absolutely. And like the UK is a great place for that, right? So, there is a real concentration of really, some of the world's top AI researchers are in the UK. And so as a result of that, there is quite a number of, some of the academics that really lead the thinking in this space are based in this country. They produce lots of articles, they speak at schools, at colleges. And so if you get the chance, have exposure to some of this is really useful and helpful.
Brilliant. Ranil, it's great to be able to have you as ever. I still have a feeling that we're, because of the pace at which data is changing, we're going to be booking you in to Careers Live again within the next 12 months, because you'll probably be telling us about yet another job that's appeared on the horizon within the big world of data. Almost certain, I think we can bet on that one. But for this evening, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you once again on Careers Live. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic as always to hear from Ranil. Now, all that data generated through our interaction with apps and websites around the world means our information is often crisscrossing international boundaries and different types of legislation within different countries. How we feel about safeguarding data and the amount of data protection and privacy here in the UK can be quite different to that of other countries. The more reliant organisations become on data, they use it, and the more ethical dilemmas start to arise. And here to explore that now with us is Paul Donga. Welcome, Paul. Would you please let everyone know who you are and what you do here at Lloyds?
Yeah, hi, Gronya. Hi, Ian. Thanks very much. So I have one of those long job titles as well. It's Head of Data and AI Ethics. And as Ranil was speaking earlier, Ranil hired me 6 months ago. So as part of the work we do here, Ranil could definitely see that AI ethics was something that we needed to pay attention to. So part of my role involves ensuring that whatever the bank does in terms of how we build systems for AI and how we use data is done in a responsible way, so it doesn't cause any harm to our customers or to society.
And Paul, 2023 has been the year where we've heard so much about AI data and ethics too. Why is this becoming so important?
I think we've heard of some of that before from me and Renil. Right? The launch of ChatGPT by OpenAI in November, it was really like a pivotal moment, right? That technology is new, but I think the launch of that and making it available to everyone on a browser and now in an app, and seeing the power and the ease of use of that, where you can just type in normal text, normal questions, and I think that has really woken everyone up to the power of AI. But with it comes ethical problems, and there are problems, and we can talk about that more in length later on, where things like ChatGPT and other technologies like that, they come out and generate responses which aren't always factual, they aren't always right, and sometimes they make things up, and people refer to that as hallucinations. And I think that has really given people like myself and other people who work in ethics, that's a real wake-up call. It's like, wow, we thought we were doing a good job, but now this new technology has hit us, and everyone's got it, and everyone all over the world is talking about it. So that's really raised the profile of some of the work that we do. So I think that's what's really keeping me busy.
And Paul, when organisations get things wrong, what kind of things can happen?
Well, there's been a number of sort of notable incidents. Facebook, who was one of the pioneers and now called Meta, they use a lot of technologies like collaborative filtering, and even the like button that we see on Facebook and in Instagram. That can actually have serious side effects, and we've read about that. That can alienate younger people or make young people feel insecure. I'm not saying any of that was intentional, but sometimes accidentally. There are consequences that happen that are really unforeseen, and that can really cause harm in society, especially to vulnerable people or younger people, potentially leading to people like just addicted to screens and maybe not socializing as much as they do. So we've seen those kind of wider aspects from social media, but we've also seen other incidents, like there was one specific one that hit the news a few years ago where Amazon was accused of filtering out CVs that they were receiving from females, because their AI model to screen CVs was trained on male CVs, because that was mostly the employees they had there.
Yes, all gone.
Okay.
And Paul, artificial intelligence is moving at such a pace that it seems regulators across the world are all coming to different conclusions. But what kind of principles are we seeing that are going to help keep people safe, yet allow the benefits of AI to emerge?
Yeah, you're right. It's being talked about all over the world now, and I think principles like fairness, right? So to make sure that when an AI system generates results, that it's being fair to people of different genders, it's being fair to people of different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different ages, because some of these big AI models like ChatGPT, they've been trained on so much data. So much data that's available on social media that actually not enough care was taken to make sure that the language model, the AI, wasn't biased against producing results that favor one group or don't favor another group. So I think that's one of the principles. There's things about privacy and data. So language models not giving out data that causes harm, or the data that's IP protected and confidential. And I think there's another big element to it as well. These AI systems, some of the ones that we talk about now, they actually consume a lot of energy to make them work. The training phase, which is when you're building the AI system, that can take months and months and run over huge amounts of computers. Actually, just takes a lot of energy to run. So from a carbon emissions point of view, actually, we've kind of gone the wrong way, and there's a lot of work being done to ensure that the future generations of these kind of language models don't consume so much data. And I think the final thing is accountability. It's kind of a long word, but it's to make sure that if people are badly affected by AI systems, that they have the ability to go to organizations and say, look, I've been harmed by this, and we need you to fix this system. And that's another area of work that's happening across governments and societal groups.
Fantastic, some real topical things there around sustainability. So if one of the young people listening today, Paul, were really interested in getting into this line of work, what kind of mindset or skills are useful if they wanted to work in the field of data ethics?
I think, as Renil says, there is a temptation to think you need to be highly numerate, you need to be able to code and program in Python and all these things, and that's simply not the case. In my experience, and AI ethics has a short life so far, we have people from different backgrounds. So we have people who specialize in sociology, we have people that care about humanities, care about society, people from charities. So a really multidisciplinary sort of background that makes up AI ethics. And the team that we have here that work alongside me, they come from different backgrounds. And different backgrounds, that diversity and inclusion of different backgrounds within the team is actually the best way of building an ethics team, because ethics is all about diversity and different views. So having a team of people with those backgrounds and different skill sets, we've also got psychologists, we've got straight computer scientists. But I think ultimately, if there was one thing I could say that's common across my team, it's that everyone cares. They care very much about the impact of technology on society and on citizens and even future generations. And what we want to do is to look at technologies like ChatGPT, and as they grow and become more popular and the GPT-5 comes out and so on, we want to make sure that we try and steer those in a way where they generate good responses, truthful responses, that they don't discriminate. And that's really what we try and focus on. So kind of any background, really, but a care about society, I think, is pivotal.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your data ethics knowledge with us. Ian, how are we getting on in the chat?
Ian, you're on mute.
Ian is unmuted. Yes, you'll see I have a different background because Paul was talking all about how all these data centers were going to consume so much power, and I had to relocate because I was running out of power myself. So that is why I'm in a different thing. So we're doing all right in the chat, but you're a little bit quiet this evening. So do make sure that you use this opportunity to ask whatever questions you want. Remember, Jen is there on the call. We want to make sure that if we're paying her this evening, that we make her work for her money. So do make sure that you ask questions in the chat and see that we get those things answered for you as well. So we know that you like to take part in Careers Live, so keep those questions coming in for guests. But we're going to invite you now to take part and step into some of Paul's world in data ethics. You get to give this a go. So we're going to give you 3 scenarios, and we're going to invite you to venture your suggestions as to whether you think this kind of behavior is ethical use of data or not, and what you think needs to be done. So as you hear these scenarios, you can pop your answers in the chat, and Paul, we're going to see whether we agree with what some of our audience think as they work through these scenarios. So let's have a look at the first one.
An organisation devoted to supporting people with their mental health has studied incidences of suicide and concluded that suicides could be prevented if friends and family provided more support to the individual. They have proposed development of an app which will be embedded within everyone's social media accounts. The app will monitor, scan and assess the language and words used by people when they post on social media, and use artificial intelligence algorithms to detect the risk of harm. For example, if someone posts keywords such as "I am tired of being alone," or "I hate myself," or "help me," the app will determine that a person is in distress. The app would then send an email to people within that individual's social network and their followers to alert them to the potential distress and offer guidance on action to be taken. Users would not be informed that the app is monitoring them. Instead, the friends and followers of that person would sign up to the Help a Friend service to receive notifications and alerts about their connections posts. Research shows that signs of suicide and self-harm can be detected through social media posts well in advance of an incident, and the organization sincerely believes this will improve mental health and reduce incidences of self-harm.
Okay, so what do you think then, guys? So we've got an organization that is concerning itself with reducing self-harm and potentially suicide. And the way it's going to do that is by scanning through your social media, figuring out whether it thinks that you're at risk, and then it's going to go and tell your friends all about it so that they can then intervene and see what they can do to help. So Omar tells us then, Paul, although it's done for goodwill, there's an issue here because it doesn't really have any user consent. And this one is interesting, isn't it? Because the user consent is slightly strange because it's the friends who are signing up to it, but the person who's being reported on doesn't necessarily know that this is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's a huge red flag that something is going on behind someone's back, and that they're being reported to people that they don't really know. Right? Our connections on social media are not people, not all our friends. They're connections through other connections, and permission has not been sought. So it's a huge red flag, and that's a good shout.
Yeah, but it's an interesting dilemma, isn't it? Because in the heart of it, its intent sounds honorable.
Yep.
So, you know, trying to prevent self-harm, and we know that when incidents like that occur, then generally the feedback from friends was, well, we didn't really see it coming, we didn't know anything is there. So you can kind of understand where the designers come from, but then there's this thing of who has the right to privacy in there, which is, I think, is generally the sense of what I'm seeing from our audience tonight. They're kind of agreeing with Omar, who was first out of the gates and saying, nope, red flag for me. And brilliant.
No, exactly. And I think just to add to that, you know, that's one of the issue of privacy is at the core of this. But actually, the ironic thing is the intent is really good. And the organization here in question would have thought, well, if we can prevent people who are showing signs of causing self-harm, if we prevent that early, isn't that just a good thing? And of course, it's a good thing. And we find these issues all over the place, actually, where actually the intent is always really good, but the way that companies go about doing this can sometimes be really questionable. It can sometimes damage the reputation of the company and actually not actually help the person. And it's an AI algorithm, which doesn't always get it right. So you could be tweeting something like, oh, I've had enough, but you could be referring to, I don't know, a political figure. And the AI system says, oh, no, you might commit suicide. And then you've got all sorts of issues. And then when does that ever go away from social media? It's kind of, there's a stigma.
So Gronya, you're going to take us through a second one, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah. So the scenarios now are going to get a little trickier because we can see that you're all really good at this data ethics game. So let's take a look at our next scenario.
A company starts to advertise its services to help law enforcement. It plans to offer this service in different countries around the world. Its service is aimed at helping police track down potential offenders by comparing information gathered on street-level CCTV with photos and images scraped from Facebook and other social media sites. They claim in their advertising that they can greatly increase the speed and effectiveness of catching offenders. And because potential offenders know that there is an increased likelihood of being caught, the service could significantly cut crime and anti-social behavior and keep the public safe. Some politicians are keen to adopt this technology because it's important to put people's physical safety ahead of everything else. Others hold deep concerns about the privacy implications of this kind of technology and how it might be used.
Now, Paul, this kind of proposal has actually taken place, I believe. So what are some of the challenges? On one hand, it sounds really attractive, protecting the public and keeping them safe from harm. But some people might argue that this is a price worth paying in itself. What do you think?
That's Gronya. That's exactly the dilemma on this one, actually, because yes, you're right. It actually did happen, and there was actually one incident where a criminal was apprehended for murder, and police had been searching for this guy for a long time, and they used this technology to capture the criminal. So on the one hand, kind of it was really good, but on the other hand, there are billions of social media images, Facebook images, and those are public. Those are available to see. And they've been used and now put in police databases, and the police are cross-checking against all of that data. So if it was my picture from Facebook that's gone to a number of police departments and is actively being used every day to try and catch criminals, I don't know how I'd feel about that. So in a lot of cases, we have ethical dilemmas, and sometimes the law isn't really on point to capture them. And often these technologies are ahead of law, right? And laws take a number of years to be in force, And so technology doesn't, right? Technology can just be out there instantly on the internet, and often legislation and law captures it afterwards. So and it's an open. This is an open point, right? Things like this happen all the time.
I just bring in the chat here as well, Paul. So there's some interesting points in there, isn't there? Which is, unlike the first one, in this case, all the company's doing is saying, look, this data, the photographs are already in public domain. They're on social media, so they're already out there. So we're not really breaching privacy because somebody's already stuck their photo out there. It's just that that photo is being used for a purpose that's quite different to the intent that somebody had when they put it out there. And I think there's a really interesting point made by Simon here that very typically with the growth of technology, as machines are learning, they select different populations, and it is minority populations who tend to have the thinnest data sets, where then misreadings then occur because the data set isn't as wide as it is for other parts of the population.
Yeah, absolutely, Ian and Simon. That's a really perceptive point, and you're absolutely spot on. That is one of the main ethical issues that we have, that the data that makes its way into training models is not representative of the place where the model works. So when you put it out in the field, as it were, you're looking at populations that are very diverse and maybe a different diversity mix than the data that trained the model. And that was one of the first points that was really recognized in ethics, right? You've got to fix your data so it's representative of the target population.
So we've got time for one more, I think, in there. This is a good one. Here he goes.
For some time, banks have used data to help judge whether someone is eligible for or could afford a loan. Data points such as whether someone owns their own home, if they are employed, how long they have been at their employer, whether they are married, to form an opinion as to whether the customer is suitable as a borrowing candidate. Over time, as people live different lives, work in different ways, and our notion of family has changed, these methods are excluding some customers. For example, people working freelance, run a side hustle business, work in the gig economy, or as digital nomads may not fit the traditional pattern of one single employer and one monthly paycheck. People who have migrated to the country may not have a verifiable history of where they have lived or been registered as a voter. People who have been careful savers and never taken out a credit card are denied credit because they have no history of borrowing. Does this seem fair? A software company thinks it can do better. It is proposing a new system that banks can buy. Instead of individuals filling in long application forms, they can instead give the bank their social media profile. Artificial intelligence within the software will then search through an individual's social media and assess the risk of them borrowing money and their suitability for credit. The software company is saying this is a fairer way of assessing someone's character and suitability to be a borrower. It could lead to customers being granted cheaper credit because of an improved understanding of their personal circumstances. Should banks scrape social media data on their customers to offer them opportunities that they may otherwise be denied? What do you think?
Yeah, so Paul, I know we're so tight on time tonight to get everything in there, but a few words from you about this one then, because again, on the face of it, it's one that you go, well, that seems like an honourable intent. And then you kind of go, hang on a second, this is going to be quite complicated.
Absolutely, and you did right. So I'll try and be brief on this one. This is actively being looked at by various banks, especially in North America. Right, they're actually saying, look, the current system of giving loans based on credit ratings is really old-fashioned. It doesn't account for things like the gig economy. And really, we need something better. And here's one particular method of granting loans to people who deserve loans, but aren't really captured by the credit rating system. It's work in progress. And here you can obviously tell there are many avenues for making mistakes by scraping social media and then looking at other information. It may not always be correct, and that's the point. So we have to tread really, really carefully on this one.
Yeah, and there's some great points in the chat, and I'm sorry that we don't have time to cover all of them, but as Claudio says on there as well, social media activity may not be representative of someone's real life in there. And
good spot.
So on and so forth. I feel like we could have just done an entire show just using that. And before I hand over to Gronya, of course, just to note that we were using AI this evening by using a piece of software called Synthesia, which is where we got our avatars from and the voice synthesis that was in there. And you can tell how they're growing. Some of it's pretty good, some of it in the inflection, not quite right. So it's all still in the learning process as well. Gronya, over to you.
Thanks, Ian, and well done everyone on those scenarios. So our next guests are people who have made the jump into data as a career through our graduate programme. So let's find out how they did that and what they get up to in their day jobs. Let's welcome Mary and Arena. Welcome both to Careers Live.
Thank you, Grania. Lovely to be here.
Easy questions first. What is your proper job title, and then what exactly does that mean that you do in Lloyds?
I can start with this one. So we're both graduate data scientists at Lloyds Banking Group. And honestly, having heard about Paul's and Renil's sort of overviews of what data science looks like this day, I think a better question is like, what is it that we don't do as data scientists? But I guess sort of from the perspective of a bank, so every time you tap your card on the card reader, every time you apply for a car loan, for a mortgage, there's data that's being generated. And our aim as data scientists is to be able to gain insight from that data to like improve how things are being done in the bank, but also more importantly, being able to improve the services and the products that we offer to our customers.
Amazing. And Mary, this career space is so new. Could you please bring to life an example of a problem that you've had to look at and how you use your skills to solve it?
Yeah, so obviously there's stuff that levels to what I can talk about, but yeah, so for example, on my first kind of rotation in the grad scheme, I was working in commercial banking, and we were kind of looking at whether we thought out of all the different commercial banking products that they own, like what kind of products would be suited for different business customers. So yeah, we kind of I had to like help maintain some models and like monitor, check that they were still kind of working over time. But yeah, to actually kind of decide which customers we thought were more likely to take out certain products, and therefore kind of personalize the information that they received about what they might be most relevant to them.
Thanks so much. And to either of you, what was your study route that got you the skills to be able to do this?
Yeah, so I personally did a Bachelor of Science in Economics, and I feel like it's given me a mixture of skills that I use in my day-to-day job. So you do need to understand some level of maths and statistics to sort of understand the frameworks behind some economic models. But I like to think of data science as an art and a science. So the science part being the math, but the art part, I think, is what stands out to me the most, because you really need to understand the business problem that you're trying to address in your sort of day-to-day job. So for example, I was working in sort of the credit card space, and we were trying to predict if an account would go bad, or like if the customer would default on the loan within 6 months. But it's also important to consider factors like, we're currently in a cost of living crisis. The interest rates are at a very high level. So how does that actually feed into the models that we build at the bank, sort of on a day-to-day basis? And just being able to understand markets and how they respond to shocks has been a great thing that I got out of my degree that I use in my role today.
And with the pace of change in data, how have your roles changed since you first started with Lloyds?
I think it's almost like kind of even, the different machine learning models that you might have kind of learned about even in our boot camp back in September might not be the best option now. So you kind of have to keep up to date reading about different things that like, okay, this is one option, but actually this new like algorithms come out, or like a new better way of doing something might have come out, and you have to kind of keep on top of it and realize that anything can change very quickly. So I think that's one example.
And sometimes it's said that you need to be a mathematical genius to succeed in a career in data. What do you both think?
I'm kind of guilty of thinking that way before I joined Lloyds Banking Group. But since I've joined, I think every day that I sort of walk into the office, I've been proven wrong because I've met people from all sorts of backgrounds, people who've done social sciences, people who've done humanities, and especially now with how data science is evolving, seeing sort of like the ethics side and the legal implications of it. I think there's a lot of potential for people from all sorts of backgrounds, not just, you know, math geniuses, as you said, to sort of enter the space.
And just in our last few moments, if we were to send you back to your old school today to talk to year 11s, what advice would you give them?
I think the main one for me would be like, be curious, because when I was in year 11, I didn't even know data science existed, and it probably did, but like in such a small aspect compared to what it does now. So I think just kind of keeping, if you're not sure what you want to do, keep your options open and kind of just, yeah, read the news, like stay up to date with stuff, like even just watch interesting YouTube videos about things and just kind of keep up to date with what you can do. And then I think, yeah, follow a path of things you enjoy, and yeah, hopefully you'll find something that you want to do.
Thanks both.
Grania, we've got a question in the chat which is probably relevant to before we bring in Philip, our next guest, actually, which is around for Mary and Irina, who went to university. One of the questions that we've got on Claudio as one is around, is a PhD necessary or, you know, useful in this field? I guess a question that's also relating to this is, when you go off and do a university degree that's like 3 years long, then what I'm hearing from you, Mary, is you've got to have your wits about you, because something that you learned on the bootcamp 6 months ago is already not necessarily the best algorithm. So what you know, in genuine honesty, what are you kind of thinking about the value of your degree in relation to the fast moving career that you're now in, I guess, is the question that lies behind this one.
Yeah, I think you definitely don't need like a PhD or anything. I have a bachelor's of science as well, so yeah, I don't even have a master's either, like Rena. But I think, yeah, you definitely have to be a bit, it isn't all about academia. I think because everything does change so quickly, there are definitely things I learned on my degree now that would be not as relevant. They didn't do that much AI stuff on my degree. I did computer science. So yeah, I think now they would even place more focus on that. And that I only finished that a year ago. So yeah, I think potentially just being more up to date with kind of the business side of it as well. And just like kind of even just demonstrating that you're interested and that you have like is more potentially more important in some ways.
Brilliant. Okay, so Gareth, I think we can manage to bring Philip in on this one. And Philip is not in an office like us. We've got all sorts of things going on in the office today. A big hole has appeared behind me, so hopefully I'm not going to fall into that one. But Philip, you're in Scotland, I believe, if we got this right. What are you doing in Scotland? Is that where we send you on Lloyds Banking Group data stuff?
No, not at all. Thanks for having me in. I'm actually on the Isle of Bute at the moment, doing a volunteer holiday for Callum's Cabin.
Okay.
They're a group that provides a charity that provides holiday homes for children facing cancer and their families, giving them a chance to make irreplaceable memories.
Superb. So I know you've had, so shall we say, like a bit of a roundabout journey to manage to get to Lloyds Banking Group. And I know it's a story that we could take up the whole of our period of time now, but what's the basics? And I'm just going to let these guys carry on doing their work on the big hole while you tell us about the basics of what you've been doing in your career.
So in terms of the steps it took to get me into Lloyds, where now I'm working as a data analyst. I started in September. Upon leaving school, I took a gap year in Peru. Then I spent 10 years traveling and teaching English around the world, and then I spent nearly 5 years working as a chef before I finally settled on what very much seems to be the perfect role for me, which is data analyst.
So what makes it a perfect role, I guess, is the big question then, isn't it? After doing all of those things, how do you know that this is the one for you, so to speak?
Well, I'm generally quite stubborn, and so for the majority of my life, people have been telling me that I should probably be working something to do with data. But I did find that I was drifting towards data-based work, even even working as a chef, I was trying to find data solutions for problems. But when it comes to actually finding myself in this role as a data analyst, I wake up early in the morning and I want to work with data. I have to be told to make sure that I don't work too long because I want to continue working with data. It's not like other roles where I would essentially watch the clock waiting to finish. I look forward to work in the morning.
Yeah. So why an apprenticeship then, Philip, for you?
For me, it seemed like the best way to be introduced to such a new field. As I've already said, I went teacher, chef, and to go straight from hospitality industry into something quite novel, which is for me banking industry and also data. I thought that it would provide me a great framework to go on and be a success, and it would give me an introduction into the field.
Okay, and how's that journey going so far? I know we've got to wrap up shortly, but how is that journey so far?
I've been really enjoying it. I mean, I get to work on something essentially new every couple of days, and right now I'm working on enhancing the customer experience by cutting down wait times and trying to encourage people to use our website and reduce customer frustration, which is really important for us.
Yeah, so it's really meaningful, the things that you do, and you can actually solve some real world problems even with the skills that you're learning so far in your apprenticeship. Yeah,
exactly.
Superb. All right. Well, our time is so short this evening. I feel like we needed a longer broadcast, but Gronya, I think we've got less than 10 minutes, but you've got our colleague Jen to bring in now as well. Thank you so much, Philip.
Thanks, Philip. So absolutely great insight from Philip. We do only have 10 minutes left to run, and as we've mentioned apprenticeships, now is a perfect time to bring in our colleague Jen to talk about the Lloyds apprenticeship schemes in data, what they are, how they work, and how to find out more about them. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Gron. Yes, hi everybody. I'm Jenny. I'm an apprenticeship delivery manager at Lloyds Banking Group, and mostly I look after the digital and technical apprenticeships at the bank, so data being one of those. So thanks again for joining us today. I hope you found it interesting so far. I do often get asked about the apprenticeship roles that we offer in data, and I'll just tell you a little bit more about them and the actual process that you need to go through if that's something that interests you. So within the apprenticeship space, we normally recruit into two different types of roles in data. So typically a level 3 data and insights apprenticeship and the level 4 data analyst apprenticeship, which we just told you about. So the programs run for around 18 months to 2 years. And they'll run alongside your permanent role. So you'll be a permanent colleague in Lloyds in the bank. But the apprenticeship and the learning element sits alongside that, delivered by an external training provider. And they'll give you all the necessary learning, the skills, the tools, the techniques that you'll need to do your role and to become competent. So they focus on developing all those technical and analytical skills that will prepare you for any future challenges and for the kind of future in the business. So lots of opportunity to learn, which is brilliant. And in regards to the application process itself, generally what we ask for in regards to those apprenticeships. So with the level 3, there's no real prerequisites. The whole premise of the apprenticeships is that there is a substantial learning need. So we want to teach you everything that you need to know. We're not expecting you to come as a fully qualified data expert. The apprenticeships are absolutely to take you on that journey and give you those skills. So the level 3 doesn't have that expectation. The level 4, just because it is slightly more challenging, the requirement is usually that you have 1 A level or an equivalent, and both will ask that you have a maths or GCSE English qualification. Now, don't panic if you don't, because part of that process once you're in the apprenticeship is that they can, the external training provider can help support you gain a maths and English qualification, which is called functional skills. So it kind of gives you what you didn't get either in GCSE or what you can't prove, because sometimes people just don't have that evidence anymore. So whatever that circumstance is, we can usually support with that. But as part of the recruitment process, we want to make sure that we don't miss out on really valuable people that absolutely have that skill set naturally, but just perhaps haven't been given the opportunity previously. So, you know, we really do make it accessible and open to everyone. And we've had some really great success stories of people coming from all different backgrounds into those roles. So it really works well. So in terms of the application process, so you would do an application, and then potentially there'd be an online assessment. This is just to assess some strengths and mathematical skills. If you're doing the level 3, then that will be a lesser process than the level 4 if you've applied for, you know, depending on which one you've applied for. If you're doing the level 4, there may be some additional kind of testing, again, quite basic, just to sort of gauge that competency level. And if you get through those stages, then we'd invite you to an assessment day. And the assessment day would be made up of some mini interviews, a series of challenges, and potentially a bit of a group exercise. So a kind of combination of different things that gives us a good gauge of you know, your character, your enthusiasm. So it's definitely your time to shine if you get to that stage. I think if you're successful, then we'll make an offer to you to join an apprenticeship and have a role within the bank. And I'd say my biggest tip is just be yourself. If you share our vision and you're eager to learn, and that comes across in that assessment day, then we'll feel that. And that's often more important to us than somebody who has come with a breadth of experience, because again, like I said, the apprenticeships are there to teach you that.
I think, Jen, I think that's such a good point, isn't it? Because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
although we talked about tech data and AI, you are still going to have to work with other human beings. And so those human skills are actually still super important. Everybody has to work in a team. I'm so sorry, but we are running so short on time that otherwise we definitely need a bit longer in there. And Grania, we've only got like 2 minutes left or so, 2 or 3 minutes left. I don't know, Gareth, whether we've got any time to manage to throw one of the polls in there to see what we've got for people. So poll number 3, if you want to have a go at this one. So we asked you about how much now do you feel like you understand something around careers and opportunities in data. This just helps us understand whether we're hitting the mark. So we've got up to a 4. There is so much more that we could do here as well. So brilliant, thank you so much. And then Gareth, I don't know if you can bring poll number 4 up for us as well. So on a scale of 1 to 5, what do you think about career as being the choice for you in there? And it's okay if it's not, because that's still part of the deal here. Our job is to try and help and inform. So if you're thinking, I've heard it, I don't like it, that's absolutely fine. But it looks like we've definitely got some converts there, Grania. Definitely looks like it. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Over to you.
So we've all learned so many things, but now it's time to look ahead to what's coming up next month in Careers Live. As always, it will be hosted on the first Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. And as next month will be July, Careers Live will be on Tuesday, the 4th of July, an Independence Day celebration. We'll be featuring careers for creative people looking at software engineering, customer and UX design roles.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've got a few websites that are coming up on screen at the moment just for you to grab with your phone, and we'll be trying to put some links in the chats as well. Careers for Creatives are up on there on the 4th of July. Independence Day as we've got. There's the Lloyds Bank Talent website where you can find out information all about all of our schemes, and then also Careers Live, which is booked all the way through to the end of the year. So if you go to the Careers Live website, you can see everything that we've got coming up. And then also there's some final ones there. Some, if you're into apprenticeships, Amazing Apprenticeships and Association of Apprenticeships are some of our favorite sites out there to understand about apprenticeship opportunities here at Lloyds and with other employers as well. Grania.
And lastly, if you have missed any of the previous Lloyds Live sessions, or you'd like to rewind tonight's event for anything that you might have missed, you can pop over to our YouTube channel and catch all the back episodes. Tonight is our whole year of Careers Live. We started back in July 2022. Happy birthday to us. And we really want to help you explore different career pathways and get closer to people starting out on their own careers. So over that year, we've interviewed over 40 different guests. We've had quizzes, Kahoots, scenarios, and answered lots and lots of questions, but there's still more to come for the rest of the year.
Yeah, brilliant. And before we go, let's thank our production team, Gareth, our event producer, who always ends up keeping us on track in there as well. Everybody who presents Lloyds Banking Group is a regular colleague here at the bank. And who knows, if you decide to come and join us here at Lloyds Banking Group, you could be a future presenter of Careers Live as well. So we're going to hand over the baton to our presenters for July's edition of Careers Live, Careers for Creatives. But for now, as we're just after the 7 o'clock mark, from all of us here at Lloyds Banking Group, we wish you the very best and every success with wherever your career takes you. Bye for now.
Bye.
What does success mean to us?
Success is making a difference
for our customers and our communities.
Success is empowering people from the start,
building their confidence,
giving them tools to start their careers.
Success is putting our people first.
It's knowing when to listen
and making the time to talk.
Success is supporting causes we care about.
It's getting involved.
All hands on deck.
Success is making banking better.
It's engineering a fairer future.
Making progress and leaving no one behind.
Whatever shape it takes.
Success starts with us.